In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Paploo the Ewok. Hello Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bossk Bounty video. In this video, as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to be taking a look at the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Paploo the Ewok on the Return of the Jedi card. This is one of 3 figures that were revealed by Hasbro as part of the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. So this is the first one that I'm going to review. It's the one I was looking forward to the most. So some of you may not know that in 1984, 1985, somewhere around there, Kenner released the last 17 figures, and Paploo and Lumat are often put in that category of last 17 figures. But actually, really, it is actually the last 15 figures, because Paploo and Lumat both came out on Return of the Jedi cards like this. Something else to note as well is that Ewok on the card back is not Paploo. It is actually Romba. It was a mistake that Kenner made, which Hasbro have continued into the vintage collection. Now, some people do not like that. Some people want them to update the card so it's the card matches the figure. I personally am in the camp where I quite like it, where they carry forward those mistakes. You know, I want a new, highly articulated figure based on the original Kenner card, because at the end of the day, it's called the Vintage Collection, and that's kind of what I like about it. It's a hark back to how it was back in the day, but I can completely understand why people would want it updated. But let's look at the card anyway, just get Bossk out of the way. So there it is. As I mentioned before, we've got the Kenner logo at the bottom. We've got the image is Romba, basically. It's the wrong Ewok. We've got Paploo there on the yellow name pill, Return of the Jedi logo, and the 50th anniversary logo in the corner there for Lucasfilm, which when I first saw it, I was not really impressed with. I'm still not too happy with it, but if it's a way of getting these figures out, I'm prepared to live with it. But I would obviously rather that it wasn't there. There we have Paploo in the bubble, and I'm going to get onto the figure in a minute when we get him out of the package. But first of all, let's just take a look at the back of the card. He is VC190 in the line. We also have Princess Leia to come, which is going to be on a future video in the next couple of days, and the ATST driver. I do have those to review as well. The back of the card there, we have the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm, stretching all the way back from 1971 when the company was formed. Obviously, the first film was released in 1977, and then you got all the other films and everything that's going on right up until the present day of 2021. The rest of the card has nothing on it apart from the Disney and Hasbro logo at the bottom and a load of warning gumph. There's the front of the card again. It's a nice card. I don't mind the mistake, as I mentioned, but it's all about the figure. Let's get the figure out and we'll check him out. Okay then, here's Paploo the Ewok out of the packaging, and I think this will be a good time to bring in the Legacy Collection version, because we have had this Ewok before, just to do a little short comparison. So let's bring him in there. There you can see that the Legacy Collection one was a lot shorter. Now the reason for that is because the new one is actually a complete repaint of the Lumat Vintage Collection figure, which is a little bit of a shame, because obviously if you can see the head sculpt on this one, he's actually showing his teeth, which is more screen accurate, and I would much prefer it if they just used this head on this Ewok, if that was at all possible. But in terms of articulation, this figure, the new figure, is superior in many cases. So for example, he has elbows, whereas this one doesn't, and he also has ball jointed hips, where this one doesn't. So there's a few improvements there. The hood or the cowl is also newly sculpted as well, and it's got this little feather on top where this one doesn't, and the staff is newly sculpted as well, as you can see there. It's a much nicer staff with a sort of furry bit around the middle there, as you can see. So this one's the Legacy Collection version, and I just wanted to do that short comparison just to show you the difference, and just to reiterate that they've essentially just repainted Lumat, which in my opinion is not a great thing, but it's not a deal breaker either, really. If we take his cowl off, let's just take that off. You'll see there that he's quite a funny looking bear, but he is basically just a repaint of Lumat. I mean, the paintwork on him is fantastic, don't get me wrong. I love the brown fur, and I love the highlights on his fur as well to bring some of the detail out. You can see his little black eyes there, his little ears, and you can see sort of like the dry brush technique over his body just to bring out some of the detail. He comes with a newly sculpted knife. The Legacy Collection one does come with a knife as well, but this one's a different knife, and that's really nicely painted as well. So you've got silver with a little bit of weathering on there, and that fits quite nicely in his sheath there, which goes on his leg, around his belt, and the belt is a separate sculpt. So I think one of the negatives of him being a repaint of Lumat is the overall size. You could see the difference between this one and the Legacy Collection one. He is a lot taller. Now I'm not really too sure on the scale of him compared to other Ewoks in the movie. Paploo is the Ewok that jumps on the speeder bike basically and acts as a distraction so the heroes can get into the bunker. But as I say, I can't remember him being up against any of the other Ewoks, but I think in terms of the vintage figure anyway, he is slightly smaller than the rest of the Ewoks, but a little bit taller than Wicket. But as this one is a repaint of Lumat, he is one of the larger Ewoks. Alright, in terms of articulation, his head is on a little ball joint. There isn't too much motion on there. You can get a little bit of swivel. Not too much motion there, but he's going to have his cowl on most of the time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. He has ball-jointed shoulders, ball-jointed elbows. He has swivels at the wrist, swivel at the waist. He has a ball hinge at the hip, and he has a hinge on the foot as well, which is very, very stiff there. But you can just see the hinge in there, and of course, that will swivel as well. So you're not really going to need too much more articulation on an Ewok. But it's good to have him finally in the vintage collection on that card back. As I said before, it is a little bit of a disappointment that we've got the 50th anniversary logo on there. It does make them stand out when they're next to your other Return of the Jedi cards and your other Ewoks. But as I say, it's not a deal breaker. It's just good to have another of the 96 in the vintage collection. Another Ewok to boot. And he's pretty good. He looks all right. Alright then guys, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. That is Paploo the Ewok on the Return of the Jedi card. Thank you very much for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.